cheating, and the trauma afterwards. Worse than more trauma. To begin, my wife had an affair with her supervisor at work 3 years ago. I recall the day to the second when I discovered what was going on. With that stated, I'd want to mention that I'm a combat veteran with 19 years of service and 6+ years in war zones. Dealing with my wife's infidelity pales in contrast to the pain of war. I was, prepared for war. I went through it with a group of pals. I knew that no matter how awful things went, I'd either be dead or have friends to help me get through it. Even when I returned, talking about my experiences with friends or a therapist was not a problem. Dealing with my wife's infidelity has been the polar opposite of that. It's been utterly alienating. I'm unable to discuss it with relatives or friends. For one thing, they'd be perplexed as to why I'm still with her and how someone as apparently powerful and accomplished as I could remain with her after her affair. Then, there's the reality that it absolutely emasculates. The whole thing made me feel as low as whale feces at the bottom of the ocean. Then there's the fact that I'm simply depressed all the time. The person who had been my rock for so long, the person I trusted with my most darkest secrets, the one who provided the stability I needed to be successful and honestly to survive in war, had betrayed me. Not only did they mislead me, but they also broke my trust in the most heinous manner conceivable. My wife used to be my confidante when I was at my lowest point in life. Now, she is the one who has brought me to my knees, and she is the person I want to speak to, but I'm afraid I can't. Because she is the one who started all of this. I know I'm just raving, but I'd spend the rest of my life fighting to avoid having to cope with the agony of my wife straying. This is without a doubt the worst thing that has ever occurred to me in my life. I know I should simply move on and get over it, but I don't know how. I'm not a crier, but I've been lying awake at night with tears streaming down my cheeks, and there's no one I can tell. There is no one I can speak to. It's a very horrible life. Story 2. 29 male, married to 24 female for 6 years, might have just missed catching my wife cheating on me. Today, my wife informed me that she had to work soon after I got off work, and our son had a soccer game to attend immediately before she left. So I left work a bit early, picked up our kids, and drove them to our youngest son's soccer game. An hour later, as we were driving home, I got a text stating that my wife discovered she didn't have to work until an hour after she thought she did. So when I arrived home, I must have barely missed her. I didn't think much of her remark until I checked our phone records online and saw that she had texted a former boyfriend around an hour before. Now, before you all accuse me of being crazy, I discovered my wife was emailing naked/lingerie images to numerous guys in her hometown around 4 months ago. I confronted her about it, and it has been the most difficult 4 months of my life. Throughout our 6-year marriage, I have sometimes found my wife chatting to other guys online. We just started attending to marital therapy, and she deleted all of the contacts on her phone with whom she used to communicate, as well as blocking them on social media. I thought everything was going swimmingly. I've been really suspicious, checking phone records and social media accounts to see whether she's avoided these people, and for the most part she has. But today I discovered that she contacted her old lover, to whom she had given semi-naked photographs, just after I went to take our kids to a soccer game. He then texted her back an hour later, around 10 minutes before I arrived home. I haven't read the text message's context. Perhaps I'm overthinking the matter, and it turns out to be insignificant. But when I discovered the phone records, I freaked out and began to explore about the home. I discovered a pair of damp towels. She generally uses 2 towels, so it's not that unusual, likely from her getting ready for work. But when I arrived home and picked up the kids, I saw that the pants and sweatpants she was wearing were soaked. Her pants smelt a bit like, I know, TMI, and maybe I'm imaging things, but that's what it felt like. I also discovered a hat that had been in the basement for a long and meant a lot to her ex-boyfriend, hanging on a rack near our bed. I'm not sure how long the hat has been hanging around. I don't normally pay attention to such little things. All I can think of right now is that she asked him to come over after I left to take our kids to the game that they had, and that he texted her as he left. I'll attempt to read what the text messages say when she comes home, but I'm guessing he'll be gone from her phone by then. My children are everything to me. My 3 children are 3, 4, and 5 years old. If we didn't have children, I would have ended the partnerships as soon as I discovered the first infidelity. She is nonetheless a decent mother, and she is a lovely lady. She used to be a professional retail model, and she was absolutely drop-dead stunning. And there are so many qualities we share that I adore about her. I really want this to work. But every time I think things are going well, I notice something strange about her behavior that leads me to believe she is still cheating on me. Please, if anybody has any suggestions about what I should do, I would really appreciate it. 2 questions. How can I be certain that she is physically cheating on me? When she arrives home from work, should I approach her about the text messages? Thank you to everyone who commented. It took me a few tweaks last night to get this thread up and running, and I kept an eye on it on my computer until she came home from work, but no one had answered up until that time. I was actually entering onto this account to remove this discussion, since I assumed no one would react, and I'm a bit taken aback by the advice. I appreciate you taking the time to read and react to my worried thoughts and sentiments. As an update for everyone, when she arrived home, I behaved normally, and after she fell asleep, I took her phone into the bathroom to investigate. The messages were, in fact, removed. She woke me in the bathroom, I'm a light sleeper, and requested me to open the door. I answered the door after scanning her phone, and we had a lengthy talk about things. First and foremost, she raised several valid points about the time frames I had in mind, and she showed me pictures and receipts to prove that she was indeed an hour early for work, and that everything I had in my mind about her cheating on me at our own house was most likely just my own insecurity and paranoia. Second, she indicated that she contacted him because his father died yesterday, and she provided confirmation that his father did indeed die yesterday. Furthermore, he resides in her home state, and she was able to demonstrate that he wasn't physically able to be here yesterday. She claimed she erased the text messages because she knew I'd been anxious about texting recently and didn't want to upset me, but she felt compelled to contact him to express her condolences for his loss. Last but not least, she demonstrated that much of the affair I had imagined in my head was just me being paranoid, and that most of the proof I had against her was fake. She did admit to before leaving for work, and she pointed out that we had before I went for work yesterday morning, so the wet/dirty panties were due to that. After another lengthy talk regarding the status of our marriage and where we should go from here, we were able to agree on the following marital truths. I have zero faith in my wife. It's reasonable that I feel this way given her previous infidelity. I vividly recall the gut-wrenching ache and my chest constricting as if I couldn't breathe when I found out she had been emailing images to someone. I'm already a pessimist, but for the last 4 months I've been paranoid, and my anxieties and insecurities have forced me to cease working entirely. I've been slacking at work since I spend the most of my time on my computer following her online. I recognize that if I want this marriage to succeed, I'll have to return to my regular life and focus on developing myself rather than constantly following her every move. My wife still has romantic sentiments for her ex-boyfriend. She informed me that, although the messages she sent yesterday were benign, she wouldn't lie and claim she doesn't think about him on sometimes. She informed me she still has emotions for him, but she still loves me and our children and wants things to work out. My wife is quite self-conscious. This is something I've always known. Perhaps it derives from her modeling experience, but despite the fact that I believe she is the most gorgeous woman on the planet, she is always mocking herself and has a very low self-image. She is messaged on social media websites 100+ times per day by different thirsty men trying to get with her, and she claims that posting pictures of herself on social media or sending pictures to attractive men was a way for her to receive compliments and attention, which made her feel better about herself. She recognizes that she has a low self-esteem and has said that she has to focus on loving herself so that she does not need the approval or attention of others to feel good about herself. I'm not saying what she did was right or justified, but I do recognize that she depends on other people's comments and attention to feel good about herself, and at least she's aware of this and wants to work on it. I use my wife's faults to defend my own deficiencies, and she uses mine to justify hers, although in reality, we both look to be responsible for our own failures. I recognize that I've been a bad employee ever since I found out about the most recent time she was unfaithful to me. Yeah, I'm sure anybody would have been shook up and struggled at work the first week after finding out, but all of the things I've failed to do in the last several months, if not years, haven't been due to her infidelity. They have occurred as a result of my own choices and actions.